So, in Heroes, Shadow returned to the cast after his presumed death in SA2. He lost his memories of the past, and with that plot point in mind, and his popularity within the fanbase, it makes sense for Sonic Team to have a game solely focused around the Hedgehog himself. But I imagine most didn't expect it to be this. You can thank fans for this game's existence, as Sonic Team received many letters from fans asking them to give Sonic a gun. They couldn't do it with Sonic, of course, but with Shadow? That screams like a real moneymaker right there. Originally aiming for a T rating in the US until the ESRB created the E10 Plus rating in 2005, the same year that Shadow was meant to come out. They then instead toned down the game to achieve said rating, once again developed by Sonic Team USA, with Tadashi Iizuka serving as the game's director and writer. It also serves as the last 3D game to have Yuji Naka as producer. Why is that? Well, wait till next game. Now, I never played this as a kid. I've always seen it on store shelves at a GameStop and whatnot. But it wouldn't take me long to know the notoriety this game built up, often considered to be one of the worst Sonic games of all time. Unless you're me, who commented on Some Call Me Johnny's video, who said the game was actually okay, despite not actually beating the game at the time. We say a lot of dumb things when we're younger. I will later get a copy for myself, and that's where I learned something. I don't like this game. I've tried multiple times to beat it, but always could never stomach a full playthrough of it. Until now, anyways. So I sat my ass down, got all the endings, and my final verdict is... sorry, I still don't like this game. Before we go any further though, let's talk Shadow the Hedgehog 2005. Shadow is seen staring out towards the city, having these random visions of events he doesn't entirely remember. Then all of a sudden aliens. Don't you hate when that happens? A ghostly figure calling himself Black Doom, the leader of the race called the Black Arms, tells Shadow of his promise to find him the 7 Chaos Emeralds. In exchange, he will reveal his past to him. Before Shadow can get any more info out of him, Black Doom disappears in a blast of explosions. With no other leads, Shadow sets out to fulfill this promise and hopefully find some answers about his past. Unlike the previous games, Shadow the Hedgehog has a non-linear structure to its campaign. By completing certain objectives within the stage, Shadow can either go down the path of a warrior for the Black Arms to bring destruction to the world, or protect mankind from the alien invaders. All up to your choice. Though if you want to see everything this game has to offer, you need to complete all the endings. But more on that later. Every playthrough always starts you out with the first stage of the game, Westopolis. No one said that, Shadow. Upon taking your first steps into the stage, we run to Sonic himself.
Hey Shadow, long time no see! Looks like these black creatures really mean business.
This was the first 3D game to have the 4Kids cast, and yeah, I like them. This cast did give us the likes of Jason Griffith as both Sonic and Shadow, who's still up there as one of my favorite voice actors for the Hedgehog. However, this was also the same cast that gave us the longest running English VA for Eggman, Mike Pollock, and while I do love his Eggman, the less I talk about the person behind the voice, the better. And while I do like their voices, early 4Kids wasn't the best at points. That does come down from the writing, as it's sometimes very...
We're on our way to the Ark, so I guess that means we're going too.
questionable. Like, they really should have changed what the characters called the Black Arms, because out of context, it sounds pretty bad. They literally call them black creatures. Did no one see the problem here?
Disgusting black creatures.
From this point, trying to summarize the plot is tricky, as it feels very scatterbrained with its structure. Based on what route you go down, plot points will be dropped, new ones will be brought up, and it just feels like a mess, nor does it feel like it flows well with one another. Not to mention how some events just don't make sense with the current pathway. You can be on the hero side, and Black Doom will not bat an eye at the fact that you killed several of his soldiers and still give Shadow orders, or how you can just suddenly turn on the Sonic heroes at the very last minute on the true hero route, just to be a dick, I guess. This whole story's a mess, and edgy as hell, down to where characters are swearing, which is more funnier given the context is coming out of a little angry hedgehog. And according to Jason Griffith, there are lines recorded of Shadow dropping the F-bomb repeatedly to the likes of Sonic and Tails, hidden somewhere in Sega's vaults, and probably will be just as buried like that Sailor Mouth episode from SpongeBob. But like that episode, I want to hear those recordings because that sounds like the worst best idea Sega had. To demonstrate how the story is all over the place, take for instance the neutral path. It starts with Shadow initially disobeying Doom's orders, but later he's still working with him despite showing no interest in helping him beforehand. And then all of a sudden that's all dropped completely for a different plotline where Shadow believes that he's an android, which is bullshit by the way, only for all that to end with Shadow killing Eggman with some karate chop action. And that's just one pathway. And you have to do it again as you need both endings for each route to complete the game, with a grand total of 10 endings to achieve. This also means playing through the likes of Westopolis 10 fucking times, as you just can't simply go to the stage select and say pick the last stage to get the other ending. No, you have to do a full playthrough to do that. And for being also technical here, there's a grand total of 326 possible pathways to achieve. Like, why? Okay, let's talk about some of the new characters. Early on, we're introduced to the Gun Commander, which I don't think was even given a name until the Archie comics, Abraham Towers, but even then it wouldn't be official until Shadow Generation's Dark Beginnings, nearly 19 years later. He holds a grudge against the Hedgehog, blaming him for their gun raid on the Ark, and the death of Maria, who he considered a sister to him. Even though it was a gun agent who pulled the trigger on her, no, it was the Hedgehog, of course. The human models look terrifying in this game, by the way, like Maria here. Jesus, her eyes take up most of her face, and what's with the president's goofy-ass shoes? Black Doom is very whatever as a villain. I do dig the design, even if in-game they cranked up the bloom on him a bit too high. I think the devs must really like the bloom effect as it's everywhere, and it's an eyesore, like there's a thing as too much bloom. But Black Doom was the one who helped give birth to Shadow by giving his DNA to Gerald, so that he can create the ultimate life form he sought after, only in exchange for the 7 Chaos Emeralds. For what reason, we're not sure of yet. Though Doom does have that dad energy where he's trying to teach Shadow his ways, only for Shadow to be going through his edgy phase. He's also voiced by Goku. It's required to bring that up at least once in a review. One thing that still bothers me is that Shadow is still trying to remember his past from SA2, but I have to ask again, why does no one take the time to sit down with Shadow and tell him of his past, because they know of it? Ask Rouge, she was helping him out in SA2, so why doesn't she help him get his memories back? Like, remember how in SA2 Amy jogged his memories, which led to him saving the world? Why can't you just do that again? I don't know why people just don't, I just don't get why they don't do that. Like, the only one to do so is Black Doom, but he's intentionally warping it to persuade Shadow to join his side. But what about Eggman?
Doctor, please tell me. I need to know about my past. Who am I? What am I doing here?
Are you still wondering who you are, Shadow? There's nothing to tell, Shadow. You have no past.
What?
Oh, fuck off, you dickhead. Don't start this bullshit. You fucking know, and you're only doing this to be a dick. Now quit saying the same fucking line.
You know what they say. The more the merrier. You know what they say. The more the merrier. You know what they say. The more. You know what they say.
Let's put the story on hold and talk about the gameplay a bit. Shadow has about everything he had in Heroes, minus the Rocket Excel, which I don't think anyone's really missing. Shadow does have the Spin Dash, which is not really useful in this game. Shadow can now also wield guns, and despite the ridiculous nature of them being in a Sonic game, the gunplay is probably the strongest part of it. They're fun to use and match well with Shadow's speed, even if I question why my melee weapon has an ammo count. Though you do get some unique weapons for completing certain pathways, like the Egg Vacuum, a vacuum that sucks up most enemies and gives you extra lives for filling it up. That sounds like a good deal to me, even if that backfired on me 1 or 2 times. But when you get unlimited ammo thanks to the Chaos powers, it can be pretty fun to mow down everything in your path. Speaking of Chaos powers, there are 2. Depending on which enemies you kill, it will fill up either the Hero or Dark gauge. When filled, Shadow can either perform the Chaos Blast, which can destroy multiple enemies in the radius, or Chaos Control will allow him to zip across the stage at supersonic speed. The added benefit to the Chaos powers is when activated, Shadow is temporarily invincible and is given unlimited ammo. Those latter 2 are what I find most useful, as the Chaos powers themselves are more situational depending on the mission you're on. Like, Chaos Control is only something I'll only do for like those reach the end of the stage missions. Chaos Blast is fine, but I feel like using guns much faster and more efficient. All this would be fine if not for Shadow's control, which feels as slippery as in Heroes, and I feel like it's worse here given the level design, where it's more stop and go, and with plenty of downtime, which can be pretty dull. Not to mention how Shadow likes to bounce off of everything at points, which you know is very fun. To give Shadow some credit for a few things, rail grinding is probably the best it's been in the series so far, and the Lightspeed Dash is nowhere near as broken as it was in Heroes. Well, I guess if you don't want to deal with Shadow's controls, you can always use a car or walker. Why would you ever need to use these when you're faster on your feet? Though I will admit, the image of Shadow on a motorcycle is probably the rawest thing this series has created. The walkers I don't mind that much though. They're pretty useful except for their hover. Why is it so slow? And the one thing I don't like as well is that you can drive over weapons and you automatically pick them up, which is a bit annoying when you're trying to keep a certain weapon. Also, don't expect your partners to do anything. You'll have someone tag along with Shadow to bark orders at him and scold him for killing friendlies despite said friendlies also attacking Shadow, and sometimes it's required to kill them to clear a certain pathway. Like, get off my ass, will you? You ain't doing anything. It doesn't help that these levels have to be some of the worst I've experienced in a Sonic game so far, all because of the missions themselves. It boils down to the same objectives: reach the goal, kill all the enemies, destroy a set amount of items, and it's not always fun. For one, there's no radar or map to show you where you may have missed an enemy. You can freely teleport back to previously activated checkpoints, but there's no way to tell where they are at, meaning you have to restart at the beginning of the stage and carefully search everywhere just to find that one enemy. Fuck you, Lost Impact, and you kill all the artificial chaos mission bullshit, because the layout looks exactly the same for nearly every room, and I felt like I was losing my mind. The level design is copy and paste at points, and sure, you could skip them if you want to, by taking a different route in the stage, but doesn't fix the fact that some of these are the absolute worst. Central City is bombs that you have to activate under a time limit because they'll deactivate for whatever reason. But if you're, say, playing the hero mission, they'll go off, so what the hell's the point of this stage? Space Gadget has you waiting around the goal only because grabbing the emerald will activate the hero mission if the timer's still going. Well, this is fun. Bosses aren't any better either. The egg dealer has to be one of Eggman's dumbest inventions. Why is it programmed for his own missiles and bombs to attack him? And why is there shadow fever on the reel? What is this design? The homing attack does not simply want to hit the buttons. I'm doing the same fucking thing, but it's not doing anything. Why can't I not hit the buttons? And there's the soundtrack. It's alright. There are some good bangers there. Leaning to more industrial, harder rock music, here are a few of my favorites if YouTube will let me play them. And while I do hate Lost Impact, I can't deny it has a great track. With all 10 endings done, what do you get from completing them? Oh, you know, the real ending. The final story that makes all the routes you've done and all the endings you've reached meaningless. Like, what was even the point of a branching storyline if there's going to be a final story with a de facto ending? Whatever. After collecting all the Chaos Emeralds, Doom reappears asking Shadow to give them to him. The heroes show up to tell Shadow to not give them to Doom as he plans on destroying the planet. No shit! Black Doom says he's saving humanity from themselves, give them salvation, and yeah, I heard this shtick before. He plans on using the Black Comet, which passes by the Earth every 50 years. But he needs all 7 of the Chaos Emeralds, as promised by Gerald, to teleport onto the planet as it's too weak to enter the atmosphere. Before the heroes can jump in and stop Doom, they are paralyzed by a gas the comet is emitting. Shadow overcomes the gas and vows to stop Black Doom and his plans on destroying the world. Just one last stage to go through. We're on a time limit, and Shadow must use everything he has to reach Doom in time in this epic, climactic
Chaos Control!
found him.
Let's just get this over with already. Shadow confronts Black Doom, only for Shadow to be paralyzed again thanks to his mind control. Back on the Earth, Team Chaotix managed to access Gerald's secret files and project them into the comet. Gerald reveals to Shadow that the government plans on shutting down everything on the Ark and imprisoning those who know of his existence. He created the Eclipse Cannon solely to destroy the Black Comet when Black Doom's army returns in the next 50 years. Which, is nice and all, but why doesn't Gerald tell Gunn or the government about the Black Arms? You would think they'll understand and be fully willing to stop an alien force that plans on destroying the planet, but governments can be pretty stupid sometimes, so I guess this might be accurate. Shadow overcomes Black Doom's mind control, and he tries to attack him head on. He teleports outside the comet and promises to destroy Shadow for betraying him. With the power of the Emeralds, Shadow goes super and fights Doom's final form, Devil Doom. And this boss fight is utter shit. You can only hit his eye, which switches places every time you hit it, making something like Chaos Control useless as it just wastes his time and rings. You can't get too close to him either, otherwise he teleports, and you need to get close enough for Chaos Spirit to actually target his eye, or else it's just going to hit everything else that's floating around him. It's not a hard fight once you know what you're doing, but it's not a fun one, alright? This would mark the last time a track by Crush 40 would be used for the final boss, but at least I Am All of Me is a great track to go out on. Also, if you wait 9 minutes into the fight, Eggman will admit to Shadow that he's indeed the real Shadow and not androids. Why say something that important to the plot 9 minutes into a boss battle that only lasted 4 minutes at most? Why? Why does the game do this? Doom dies, Shadow uses Chaos Control and teleports the comet in front of the cannon, destroying it once and for all. The day is saved and everyone celebrates. The president says they'll pay homage to Gerald, despite Gerald also being the same person who tried to destroy the planet in SA2. Meanwhile, Shadow stares out into space, saying sayonara to his past. And you know what? The track that plays during the credits perfectly expresses what I think of this game. To never turn back, and to never play this game again. And that was Shadow the Hedgehog 2005. While I do like many of the ideas presented here, I don't think all of them hit the mark. The further I progressed through it, the more the issues decided to rear their ugly head, to eventually where I started feeling the worst feeling anyone can have while playing a video game, that being boredom. Shadow the Hedgehog bored me. Going through the same levels repeatedly felt tiring, and I just got bored during the latter half, where I just stopped giving a damn. I went in open-minded, hoping to at least find something I can enjoy here, and they are there, but it's just dampened by everything else it's tied to. Shadow himself wouldn't get his own time to shine again until 19 years later with Shadow Generations, which is honestly what I wanted more from Shadow as a character, and it turned out great. Well, there's one good thing to come out of this. But we need to go to the credits for the CGI team. The CGI cutscenes were created by Blur Studios, which I still think look great even to this day, T-posing Shadow and all. However, if we examine them closely and see who worked on them, we notice a Jeff Fowler. This game was one of his first productions he's worked on, and would go on to be the director for the Paramount Sonic movies, coming full circle with Sonic 3 starring the Black and Red Hedgehog himself. That's always great to see, I've been Sonic Man. And the next time we enter the Sonic universe, I have a lot to talk about with this one, but that's for another time. I thank you for watching. Have a good day, or night, or whatever, and take care.